I was 14 years old when Star Wars The Old Republic released. I even bought the Ultimate Explorer Guide before I even bought the game. I remember convincing my dad to let me spend $60 on the 3-disc installation set, and the harder part of that was even convincing him to pay for a subscription after that. SWTOR came at a time in my life where most teenagers were starting to feel lost. I felt like I didn't fit in with my friends at school or at church, but I always loved Star Wars, and when I found out that a new MMO for it was coming out, I seized the opportunity to find what I had been searching for: community. The first character I ever made was a bounty hunter due to the fact that it was the coolest class in the Explorer Guide. Witnessing the cinematic storytelling of BioWare combined with the ability to make my own character was so amazing. I can't really explain how great it felt to be a part of it back in the day. Here on what most people would call the piss-colored planet, I could rise through the levels, becoming an honorable light-side bounty hunter. Back then, there were no level skips. You had to walk to each taxi and explore every quick travel point to unlock them, a concept that today's players would probably uninstall over. But all jokes aside, I loved that feature, or lack of feature at the time, because it forced you, the player, to explore each planet and zone. After about 3 hours of leveling, I was ready to make it to the Imperial fleet and start my real journey in the greater galaxy. Back when SWTOR heavily encouraged playing with others, running flashpoints required the holy trinity of MMORPGs: tank, healer, and DPS. Working together was key to progressing through parts of the game, and the rewards didn't just stop with cool gear. You were usually rewarded with finding new friends, which would lead you to get a guild invite. The galaxy of Star Wars is so expansive. There were so many planets to explore that I had grown up seeing in movies or reading about in books or comics. I loved being immersed in each planet. I would complete every side quest because, unlike most other MMOs, SWTOR's questing was so good that you wouldn't mind staying on a planet longer just to complete all of the side quests. That, and you needed the XP for it actually. The wonder of SWTOR was everything I could think about. I would finish school and hurry back to my room to log on and continue my bounty hunter story. Picking up gear was rewarding, even though it didn't really do that much for you when you were low level. It was just awesome to collect various pieces and equip it just to see how it would look. One of the cooler things about Star Wars in 2012 was the open world PvP, which definitely had moments of glory, but it added an extra layer of excitement and fear as I would have to figure out what areas to sneak through to avoid a trooper-only guild doing patrols on Tatooine. This feature no longer exists due to player counts and current game direction. You had this on every planet after level 25, so not only did you have a chance to kind of figure out what you were doing as a player, but then you had to spend the remaining 25 levels to fend for yourself. I leveled up with a few friends that got the game, and it was such a special experience. Each of us picked up crew skills so that we could make each other different things. I picked biochem, Derek made the weapons, and David made the gear. That was back when crafting had a purpose in SWTOR instead of just conquest. I'll never forget one of the first guilds I ever joined, the Akatsuki, and it was there that I met one person who would play an important role in my life going forward. Hi Sarah, if you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. I don't remember that much about the guild outside of meeting Sarah, but after that guild there was the Unmasked Rebellion, and this is where I met a lot of friends I still have to this day. I'm bringing the social element up so early because this is what made SWTOR for me and many other players. This sense of community, family, and friendship. Leveling characters didn't just take a weekend. It took weeks of consistent playing and working together. The social aspects of SWTOR were so meaningful in the early years, and I think that's been lost on so many people who still play. It took me about 1 month to get from level 1 to level 50, and while that might seem like an eternity in 2024 standards, it was actually the best part of the entire game. The whole point of MMOs wasn't to get to Endgame and raid. It was to explore all areas of the world slowly, and with a lot of other people people. I never rushed to get to max level. I was more focused on exploring the galaxy, deepening my connection to my character and the story that I was a part of. When I reached max level, it felt like I really did accomplish something. Every mob I AoE'd, every place I accidentally died in, every boss I ever conquered, it all led to this moment. But it didn't stop there. This is where the MMO experience we all know and love comes in. Endgame content in SWTOR was really fun for me. The hard mode flashpoints were actually hard, and it took real teamwork to beat bosses and other mechanics. 8-man operations were some of the coolest content available, and I remember staying up late just to clear story mode because even story mode back then had some hurdles.
Hooray! Hey, good job.
We timed that at the same time?
Yeah, pretty much. We did it just like we were supposed to. Ours
That was freaking awesome.
I saved up all my goodies until the end.
I might need on those.
Don't even get me started on daily areas like Section X and the Black Hole. Getting a group to run dailies were great because you also had to worry about the enemy faction killing you, in this case, the Republic side, which we did a lot of. The gameplay loop of vanilla SWTOR was like no other. I could have done the same loop for years, and I did just that until the first expansion came out. Rise of the Hutt Cartel was my favorite expansion. Everyone in my guild was so excited to start a brand new planet and level up to the new cap of 55 and unlock the new class abilities. It was around this time that I actually had started my first gaming YouTube channel. Yes, this is how I recorded it, and these were the legit frames. I'm putting this gameplay in because, while yes, it's hideous, I didn't care at the time. It was all I had, and it was all that I needed. I still was able to experience the game.
Just keep spamming.
I am. This is amazing. Those thrash. Damn it.
I just used Saber Strike the whole time.
Me too.
I even played ranked PvP like this back in the day, and I've got the titles to prove it. When I eventually got my own PC built, I was blown away by what normal graphics actually look like. While I'm not going to give you a history of every expansion in the Old Republic, this was one of SWTOR's high points, and I rode that high point straight into 3.0. Shadow of Revan. This probably was the last time where I felt the same wonder and awe that I had been experiencing over the last few years since SWTOR's launch. I went over to a buddy's house and we set up our PCs right next to each other for the launch of Shadow of Revan. Shout out to you, James, if you're watching this. Sure, the pirate theme of this expansion was not my favorite, but if you were going to tell me that it only got worse from there, I'd say you're lying. But it did. After 3.0, BioWare started to do something that would forever change the way SWTOR played. They started moving away from the standard MMO format and went a more solo player route, which on some level I understand. But they started taking away key features that made the game stop relying on grouping with others. You could run through a lot of the main content solo. Obviously the story content was always solo. You could have a friend join you if you really wanted to, but that wasn't the issue. BioWare stopped putting out group content. They made it easier to play the game alone, which didn't make any sense to me. If you ask a SWTOR player today, they will likely say that they enjoy playing the game alone anyway, and never did any of the group content, no group PvP or PVE, which I don't necessarily have an issue with. Different strokes for different folks, I guess, but it just highlights the truth about modern gaming. Nobody plays games together anymore. Whether it's a mixture of social anxiety or being more introverted like myself, the community of SWTOR slowly began to fade away. And fade away fast. Many players, including myself, voiced concerns about the direction of SWTOR. This was back when I was a SWTOR only YouTube channel, but to really no avail, SWTOR kept declining. I continued to make YouTube videos covering the game, mostly in the PvP realm, but no matter how many videos I made, I kept having this weird feeling that the end was near for my time in the game. I know I skipped over expansions 4.0 through 7.0 because, to be honest with you, All of those updates just brought more pain, more features and skills taken away. There was nothing in those updates that I can honestly say made a huge impact on me, at least in a positive way. For those of you who are new to my videos, I would quit and leave SWTOR many times from 2015 really until the last 8 months. Some of that was chalked up to chasing the next gaming hype train or having other interest, but I would always come back to SWTOR because it was home to me. It was in this Star Wars MMO that I found like-minded people who shared the same passion for Star Wars as I did. It was where I met lifelong friends. It's where I learned a lot about life. I learned a lot about YouTube through collaborating with other SWTOR content creators like Star Wars Central and SWTORista, but in this year of 2024, I said goodbye to content creation. Why, you might ask? SWTOR isn't an MMO anymore, at least not one that gets the love and attention it deserves. BioWare gave up on it and moved it to Broadsword, which, as we all know, is a retirement home for MMORPGs. I'd like to say that this is the sole reason why I don't play the game that much anymore, but that would be too easy. I think SWTOR started dying for me back in 5.0. The game was not about being an MMO, it's now about what most people call Space Barbie Simulator, and this angered me back in the day, but I realized that it's true. The YouTubers who were talking about the decline of SWTOR were right, and I just didn't want to believe it because of the rose-colored glasses and the emotional attachment that I had grown to it. These problems were not just exclusive to the content released aspect, but in general. SWTOR has lost its way. It's no longer a game for people like me. The only thing that the current development team seems to care about is making cartel market items to sell based off of whatever latest Disney Star Wars abomination is out there. SWTOR isn't about coming together and experiencing community through harder group content and well-written story. It's become a nostalgia tomb for those looking for the last remnants of an old MMO gaming experience. Speaking of remnants of an old gaming experience, I was on Ilum a few months back for the last version of the GRE event. I was there when they first announced this PvP-like event. I was in Mumble with my friends getting all hyped up for this great event that was going to involve PvP. I remember finishing up my schoolwork, running downstairs, and jumping on because I wanted to be involved with the next guild PvP Zerg that was happening at the Pylon. It was so exciting because there were so many guilds who were trying to prove which was the best PvP guild on the server. You had to figure out how to dodge other players if you wanted to get your quests done, and there were some cool achievements in there as well. It was one of the coolest events, and I'm so grateful that I was able to experience it. When I went to this last version of the GRE event, I was just reminded about how different the game is now. I had to switch to the PvP instance because for some reason I thought people would be there. But as I sped around with my quests ready to complete, I could not find a single soul. All I can hear are the echoes of war from the guilds many years ago. The formation of alliances and newfound wars between guilds. It was a really unique and fun experience to be a part of back then. Everyone hangs out on the PvE instanced parts of planets nowadays because before they made the switch to Broadsword, BioWare shut down the PvP servers and made them optional instances. This essentially rendered the GRE event almost unplayable outside of the Xeno analysis. It was honestly so depressing that I just logged off the game. This is solely because the game no longer encourages world PvP and they actively killed it over the last 6 years. This really put the nail in the coffin for me of the old Star Wars: The Old Republic. Seeing my favorite event go from the highlight of the year around Christmas time to just another event with little to no players participating. There is a video I made almost a year ago that's still up on my channel, and I haven't taken it down because there's a little part of me that wants to be wrong about SWTOR. Some people say that I just flip back and forth between liking the game and hating it, but that's definitely an oversimplification, as I'm sure you've probably gathered. If you've never played the game, I would say that it is a must play through the vanilla game. After Shadow of Revan though, you'll see it's fallen off a huge cliff, not just in its storytelling that everyone knows it for, but in its overall lack of quality content. The community around SWTOR is split. You have the people who only ever played it as a solo RPG, and then you have the MMO players who loved its story aspects, but left ultimately due to the lack of MMO-based content. I lied to myself for years about the truth about Star Wars: The Old Republic. My older content, even the videos 8 months ago, will corroborate that. SWTOR has meant so much to me. It truly was the reason I did not end up in the ground as a teenager, and for that reason alone, it was almost impossible for me to let the game go. Only now, at age 27, can I look at this game objectively. It's no longer the game I fell in love with as a child. It isn't even the same game it was 5 years ago. My guild from almost 10 years ago got together for a little reunion back in April, and we have struggled to keep our Friday night commitment to SWTOR. Part of that is because the game has changed so much, and it's not what we used to love and enjoy anymore. But that is to the extent in which I play the game now, occasionally with my old guildmates. I go there to talk with old friends and catch up with them. Now, some of you may be thinking that I am just way too emotionally invested, and that's probably true, but I think all of us have that one game where we are super emotionally invested into it, probably too much. And when you spend more time in a game than you've spent in the workforce so far in your life, you'll understand why I feel the way about this game. Yes, I have gotten older and found other interests outside of gaming, like many of us have, but part of the gradual leaving of SWTOR was that players like me were being pushed out. The biggest reason that I am able to start walking away from SWTOR with a lot less guilt is that I was able to experience this game with my lovely wife. If you were to tell a 14-year-old Noble that he would spend 13 years of his life playing this game, and through all the ups and downs, he would be able to show someone who he cared about some of the greatest places and stories in gaming, he would have called you crazy. Getting to show her all the places I used to sit while talking with friends, having her experience the secrets of the Star Cabal and the Dreadmasters, watching her excitement as she levels up crafting and plays through companion romances. That is a priceless gift that this game has given me. Now I want her to experience the Bounty Hunter story before we put the game down. The Bounty Hunter is where I started this journey 13 years ago, and that is where the journey will end when that time comes. So as I write this script and speed across the plains of Voss, I am filled with nothing but gratitude and sorrow. I know this sounds painfully dramatic, but looking back at the game I grew up with is so sobering, to say the least. Wandering through the old planets, visiting the same landmarks, and remembering all the times I would stay up leveling ults while talking and mumble about the next guild raid night, the late night grind in rank queues, all of the late nights that I would spend Datacron hunting with Nox, and the hundreds of videos that I produced on my channel from the good old days, and just getting lost in a galaxy that brought so much comfort and joy to a lonely teenager that stuck with me no matter what. Thank you for everything, SWTOR. If they ever made classic servers, I could see myself getting into it once again, but I really don't think that will ever happen. My relationship with Star Wars: The Old Republic is definitely complicated and messy, to say the least, and not playing the game is definitely something that is hard for me to do sometimes, but I have finally understood the truth about myself and the game. I have been holding on to the past, wishing that I could go back to the good old days, but those days are gone, and there's a reason why they're called the good old days, is because they happened, never to be repeated again. While I love reminiscing with my friends and talking about said good old days, we can never remake those experiences, and it would be a shame if we could. In the words of one of my longtime friends who plays the game, Burnji would say, "It was the people that made the game so good, not the game itself." While I don't actually agree with that, I can understand the sentiment. The old SWTOR was a phenomenal game, and it was made even more wonderful by the people who were playing it at the time. Both of those things combined made for one of the best gaming experiences I have ever had. Actually, the best gaming experience I have ever had. I will forever be grateful for my time playing Star Wars The Old Republic on a regular basis, but I have finally been able to accept the fact that it really isn't in my best interest to play it that much and definitely not make content on it, but I did want to make this video as a proper thank you and a proper goodbye to the game that really launched my YouTube channel and had such a profound impact on my life. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have made it to this far, I really appreciate you. If you related to any parts of this video at all, be sure to subscribe. I love making content like this where I talk about games that I've played/play. And if you are looking to watch more today, you can check out my videos on why the concept of modern forever games isn't really that good, or how to enjoy video games again if you find yourself in a little bit of a rut. Thank you guys again so much for watching. My name is Noble. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.